Welcome back. You are still watching Morning Live. From growing up as a village girl in the Eastern Cape to becoming a well-educated world traveler with a passion for activism against racism and inequality. Well, this describes our next guest, Ombakazi Ngandeka, who is an agriculturalist, public speaker and designer. She's here in studio to help us unpack her thought-provoking and highly opinionated book, The Dissonant Rainbow, that lays bare her experience and opinion about Africa and how it's perceived abroad. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Firstly, bring us into your background. What was it like growing up to the Eastern Cape? And just briefly take us through your journey from, transitioning from a village girl to being so well educated and so well traveled.
Yeah. Okay, so I grew up at Ekhoga, Mkhel. It's in Eludale in the Eastern Cape. And I grew up in a normal home with just my mother. Our father passed on when my mother was like 33 and we were 4 kids and I was 7 at the time. So you can imagine being raised a bit by your grandmother because your mother has to work in a town, a small town. So that's the home I'm growing up at. And so my mother at some point had to come home and take us to live with her because it was just too much for her to travel from the town to the village and we were just living alone. And we grew up in one rondaville, actually, just one rondaville, not painted, not fenced, nothing. And I went to school at Mkhali JSS, which is my school in my village. And then from there, I was in and out of Mkhele and Eludale village in town because that's where my mother lived. And then from there, I went to Inyanga, senior secondary school, Ngobo. And maybe just going back and just growing, we grew up in a home whereby, as much as we didn't have anything, but my mother made sure that we were exposed to education. So there were books. That's what we played with, actually, as children. And it was books and farming, planting cabbages, spinaches, just for our survival.
And would you say was that education, the love for books and the love for literature, the gateway for you to sort of escape a life of poverty or a life of not having much and not being exposed to, for example, traveling and things like that?
I lived in the books, actually. If I read a book, I would personalize the characters and take it. For example, I love Troubled Waters, and I would take Lucia and I would be Lucia and fall in love and everything that she was. So you lived the characters in your books. Yes. So I lived escaping my reality. I lived there. And then from there, of course, I went to high school in Nyanga. And then I started writing that ugly poetry that teenagers write, And I was so convinced that one day I'm going to publish my poems.
Roses are red.
So that's how it started. And then I went to Fort Hare, Alice campus. I did my Bachelor of Crop and Soil Sciences, Agriculture. And then I started writing again, and I found myself very observant. I was just observing people, and I love just writing. I'd just be sitting and looking at you, be like, she looks pretty, and then maybe what can I write? And I started writing like that. And
so let's talk about the Dissonant Rainbow, because you obviously have this passion for writing, and you look very closely at what's happening around you. Tell us the significance of the title and just briefly what the book is about.
Okay, so the dissonant, people always like, what's that word? What do you mean by dissonant? Dissonant means separation. So South Africa is a rainbow nation, right? But we know that there's separation in the livelihoods. That's reality, I was talking to a white lady that was sitting next to me in a flight, and we were just discussing us. She was asking about my book, and I was like, we have this relationship as black and white people in South Africa. You stay there, I stay here, and we're cool. We're not fighting, we're not hating, but, just our lives are like this. So for me, traveling to study abroad, I got a scholarship in 2016 to study in Ireland and France to do my master's in agriculture. So it was such a exposure for me. It was my first time leaving the country, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to interact with white people abroad, because I am a South African raised and accustomed into a segregated environment. Although we don't say it, we don't talk about our things, we just put our linen somewhere. But I was like, this is reality, this is who I'm going to be, and how do I live with white people? And my housemates in Ireland were all white, Spanish, Italian, German. So I was like, this is going to be very interesting. And I kept my distance from them. They would be cooking in the kitchen and I'd be sitting upstairs in my room because I'm like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to interact with them as a South African. So, but they were very nice and they included me. We talked, and questions about South Africa would come. Of course, the first question that you get asked as a South African is like racism. How is racism? How is apartheid formed? your livelihoods now. So I saw myself having to answer those questions, and I saw that I was not equipped.
And you were forced to now reflect and really
Yes.
look deeper into what really is happening in terms of, you know, race, gender, inequality. And your stances are quite clear on that. We are going to run out of time, but quickly just take us through what your stance is on those three issues.
So actually, as a South African, we know there is. I mean, you just be queuing on a line, and there's going to be a white person sometimes throwing a tantrum because the line is long or whatever. Or you see it from our black people, you know, how they treat. It happened yesterday actually to me. I was entering a flight, and the guy was just greeting, hello, she's black, hello, 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 hello. And then there's these three ladies after me, white ladies. Oh, hello, madam, how are you? Enjoy the flight, this and that. And I was like, well, where was the chit-chatting when I was entering? You know, he was like, hello, Sissy, okay, welcome on board. But I was like, oh, hello, and how is your stay in Eastern Cape? I was like, okay, here we are.
It so starts, you observe those little
it starts with us, not even white people imposing or doing anything racist, you know. So it's the environment that we are accustomed in. So that's what I looked at in the book. Of course, I reflect on the history, and then I look at the present, I look at the future, and I'm suggesting ways in which we can close this gap and promote the racial integration, because what I stand for is racial integration in terms of humanity, not in terms of you being superior than me. No, come to my house and drink my coffee.
And very quickly, we have to go. Yeah. Where can people get your book?
Okay, currently I'm selling the book myself. If you just check me on Facebook, Ombakazi Ngandega, and we can be in contact, because for now, you know, the bookshop complications and all that. But now that's where you can get my book directly from me. But check me on Facebook, and I'm going to answer your inboxes and all that. Yeah.
All right, that's amazing. Ombakazi, I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for writing such an important book.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Now, that's agriculturalist, public speaker turned author, Ombakazi Ngandega. And she was speaking to us about her newly released book she titled The Dissonant Rainbow. And of course, she explained that concept very clearly. If you belong to a book club, or if you're a lone reader, you can also join us for our Sunday morning book feature to talk about just some of the books that you are currently reading or have read. All you have to do is send us a detailed description of your book club on email, or you can send us a picture of those books that you've read with a caption using our social media platforms. At Morning Love SABC is where we are on Twitter. Morning Love SABC is where you can find us on Facebook, or simply email morninglove@sabc.co.za.